Welcome back. All right, welcome to the show. Maybe is a better way to put it. You guys miss me? Gone for over a week, I think. And I'm back here. Rob is on his phone. Thursday's the grand opening. I drove up to this place and didn't even recognize it. Like, there's a tent in the backyard. There's furniture all over the place. There's party favors sitting in the new conference room with the new huge table.
Yeah.
I didn't even notice the table was there. There was so much stuff on it. So we even have people here I didn't even recognize. Did you hire like 6 people while I was gone?
Well, they moved the conference room table, which was a massive thing. They have the signs are going up. The rest of the signs for our inner office. Mm-hmm. So those are going up right now. The pull-ups have come. They put the tent up. They'll set up for the catering tonight. So tomorrow it's pretty easy. What else? We're missing a table or two that's still coming in. We got all the control pads for the conference rooms now, so we can start doing that business. There's a second copy machine coming today, so that'll be here. Machine. And what else are we missing? A couple things didn't kind of get here. We're still missing a few things, but this will be. I think people are going to be very impressed and really like the building.
For those of you who've been here before after the rehab, and you were like, here's what's been great about the real estate center. Before we even started the rehab, people will walk through and go, this place is already amazing. Yeah. And then they've gotten to see, like close friends and colleagues of ours have come by and pop by. And we're at 80% occupancy already. So we got people and they're like
82%.
Yeah, people keep coming in and they're like, man, this is cool. And now we're almost at the finished product and it's going to blow minds when folks walk in on Thursday.
That's awesome. And I'm really happy that people come in and be appreciative of what we've done. But we're 8% away from getting less than 3% refi number. Oh, yeah. Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
we're
that's
about
the
to get
sexy stuff. That's really...
Yeah, what really gets me going is a 3% mortgage on a 25 AM. Like, that's
really sexy.
Pretty awesome. And then, it was so funny. I was chatting with Sean. He's going to be here tomorrow night. And he goes, bro, I get it. Keep doing residential. He owns a bunch of residential, right? But he's like, man, you're going to start looking around and going, man, this commercial real estate is kind of awesome.
Well, it's not too bad, yeah.
It's not too bad.
Well, we've got our eyes on it. We're focused on tomorrow. Let's finish that. Got some things that are going to be happening in the next 90 days that are really exciting as well. And then California trips coming up.
Can't wait
City
to
trips coming up.
Can't wait.
Yeah, so
can't wait.
Everything that we tried to do 18 months ago before the pandemic, right? All our plans now we're starting to put back in motion.
It was interesting. I was out canoeing. So in case you guys missed the news, I was with a group of Boy Scouts so there are 3 high adventure camps here in the United States. Mm-hmm. And these are not like your little campouts. Hey, we're going to tie knots. Like, this is, as one of the dads put it, this is where you start to see these guys grow into men, because it was absolutely insane. We get 2 miles from base camp. There's no cell service. We actually had to self-rescue Saturday night because the teams from Canada and the United States couldn't get to us. I mean, it was, and I'll tell that story at some point. I'll probably put it in the book. It was absolutely bananas.
All right.
So, had an absolute great time and got a lot of time to talk to some of the other dads, really get to know kind of what these guys are doing. And it was so funny. Me and one of these guys were just joking the whole week. It's like, these kids... I told Cameron, we were canoeing somewhere, and Cameron and I were talking about, Cameron's my oldest son. He'll be 14 this month. And I said, you have to understand what the world you live in is not the real world. And he was like, what do you mean? I said, your day-to-day basis is, what age will I be when I become an Eagle Scout? Like, bullying in your school is, you only got a B+ on your pre-calculus exam? Like, you guys are operating at such a high level of excellence before you're even teenagers. It's like, you don't know. I had an opportunity this year to spend a lot of time with some teenagers and some college kids and some younger guys. And outside of our peer group is probably the best way to put it. And it really and then of course this week I spent all this time with these incredibly exceptional kids. And I totally get it. Like, people are like, no, my kid's really smart and exceptional. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. You're a parent. I get it. But objectively, when I look at these guys, I'm like, they're on such another level. Sure. And they're not even teenagers yet, right? The guy that was the guide for us, 19 years old. He's from Georgia, the country, not the state, at the U.S. Naval Academy. So they've got a program with all of the big academies, where the academies essentially give them plebes, sophomore students, to lead these expeditions.
Wow.
So here's a kid from Georgia who we were having discussions, geopolitical discussions, with a 19-year-old for a week who's going to be a Naval Academy grad. Like, this whole, it was absolutely insane, right? So then you get back, and then I'm trying to explain this to Cameron. I'm like, look, you realize you don't live,
right?
Like, the level you're playing on is so much head and shoulders above everybody else. It's
Sure.
like you guys, and so the dads, we're all kind of talking about that. And it was just really fascinating. So sometimes when you get, you're like, am I working hard enough? Am I doing enough stuff? And then you sit back and you go, oh, everything's going to be just fine.
Yep.
Like, this is going to be absolutely just fine. So that was kind of the lesson I learned from the last week. And so when I got here, I was like, this place is crazy. I'm gone for a week and, already, it's going to be a good show Thursday. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
And then the book comes out. So I'm sitting there before. Have you talked much about the book on the show?
I did, because we need to do a whole event around that too, right?
Yeah, we do. Okay, so the book is out. But maybe I shouldn't talk too much about that. So I'm calling Brian, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I got into close enough to base camp where I could call, you were doing something else. So I called Brian. He goes, dude, people that like my family and people that I just kind of know are buying 5 to 10 copies at a time.
Yeah.
So I'm like, holy cow, we may hit Amazon bestseller
Pretty soon.
in that category pretty soon for our first book, which is unheard of. So it's been just a wild week. I'm looking forward to what the rest of the summer looks like. This is crazy.
I think we're going to do, again, all this stuff was on the deck before COVID hit, right? So it's been 15 months of, trying to work against the tide.
That's a good way to put it. We literally were pushing against the tide for almost a year and a half.
About 15 months of just running upstream, right? So it was difficult, and we got through it, and we're going to be, we'll take the pats on the back tomorrow, and then we're on. Forget it. Next thing, right?
Next thing. So
but it wasn't a bad 15 months. We made $3 to $5 million in just appreciation alone. So it wasn't a bad 15 months.
We made $5 million just in appreciation, right?
Not a bad 15
$600,000 a month's not bad. What's interesting? I'm reading. What's the guy's name? The book's called Winning. You have got to read it. It is, because what's interesting is in the book, this is the guy that trained Michael Jordan for 15 years, then trained Kobe, and he talks about those relationships and some other stuff. And it's a really interesting book. But he said most people don't understand how winners think, right. And so one of the takeaways from the book, and I'm only a couple of chapters in, is winners they get to the goal and they're like, okay, cool, what's next?
Yep, next.
And the other thing, and I forget this from time to time, where it's like, and this is what I was telling my son, I'm like, you got to understand, we're not normal people.
No.
Like, I've been brushing up against this personally for about a year now. I'm like, this is not like, you're not dealing with normal people. Michael Jordan is not a normal person. Kobe is not a normal person.
Nope.
Anybody who's CEO, like at big companies, very successful, they're not normal. So when people go like, hey, why don't you take, you can take a 2-week vacation, or, let's go on another trip. And it's like, no, we've got stuff to do here.
Next. Yep.
Yeah, next. I'm not motivated, I'm driven. And those are two totally different things. We'll take the pats on the back, then let's keep going.
Absolutely. We'll talk more about that when we come back from break. This is Robert and Jason, world-renowned Mr. Texas Real Estate. This is the Texas Real Estate Radio Network. We'll be back.
Welcome back. Jason Bible, Robert Orfino, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. Talking about stuff that's gone on in the last week. So what I realized is this is going to sound incredibly arrogant, but you'll get over it. That's why you listen to the show anyways. This book is as profound as The Curse of the High IQ by Aaron Clary. Like, if you've not read that book, you got to have Catherine read it.
Our book?
No, well, not our book.
Our book's as good as that book?
Well, no. I was talking about Winning.
Oh, okay.
We'll talk about. I didn't want to talk about our book because you said we got to do a whole event and all that.
Yeah, no.
We'll do that all night.
I'll definitely get Winning. Yeah.
Yeah, Winning is good, and then Curse the High IQ is the same way, because you go through life, and this is the conversation I was having with my oldest son, and it's like, and I'm like, you do realize like none of this is normal, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is how the top 10% operate.
Well, that's
maybe
exactly
top
right.
1%.
No, we're absolutely 10%.
Yeah,
absolutely.
if not the top 1%. And I was having this conversation with all the dads too, and it's like, yeah, the you're toiling away. Probably a good way to put it is you're toiling away in the background. Mm-hmm. And I was listening to one of your shows last week where you were talking to a buddy of yours and you said, hey, man, what do the years between 60 and 85 look like?
Right.
I get it. You're the great soccer mom, baseball dad, all that.
Awesome.
Hey,
awesome.
that's
Great.
awesome.
Yeah.
Great for you. That's great for you. And you walk through the doors of the Texas Real Estate Investment Center and you go, wow, I really want this. And I'm like, I don't think you do.
Right.
You know, I will never forget when Joe Rogan told Elon 2 years ago, he goes, you know, man, there should be some more Elon Musk out there. And he's like, you don't want to be this.
Nope.
You don't, it's a borderline insanity, right? So it's that same kind of thing. It's like most people are unable to make a sacrifice or make sacrifices at this level. Uh-oh, we never closed the doors here to the studio. And in this book, he kind of talks about that, and I've talked to a lot of friends and family about that. And I had this conference call the Friday before I left, and we were talking about what it takes to be successful in any endeavor. And 99% of the time, you know what it is? It's taking the stuff out of your life that you shouldn't be doing because it's taking away from building success, right?
You know, Michael Jordan's a great example. It's like, you know, there's a great video out there, and he's like, I missed the game-winning shot in my high school finale. I missed this shot. I missed that shot. He failed, and still became top 3 basketball player ever.
Right.
Right? And I think our industry, one failure scares off so many people.
Because you're not going to be a winner.
They're just not there.
And that's really what...
Yeah, I don't want to beat them up too much, but they don't have that...
Let's back up. Let me explain what winning is. We're playing to be at the top of the game.
Right.
If you want to buy some real estate, we can buy some real estate.
Flip a house or two,
Yeah, it's no big deal.
Yep.
I'm talking about playing at the highest level.
Yep.
And if you're going to play at the highest level, you're going to miss a lot of those game-winning shots.
I've been talking about all last week. I think between me, you, and Brian, and the team we have built around us, we have a very distinct advantage in this marketplace.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we're
I am confident there is no one better than us.
For what we do. Yep.
Now, here's the interesting thing. Who's your competition? It's who you were yesterday. I think that's where people they make the mistake. It's like, Jason, it seems like you're, at war with everybody in this marketplace. I said, no, we're not, because we don't have any competition in this marketplace. I'm at war with the guy yesterday to be the guy that's better tomorrow.
Right. I don't want to go backwards.
I don't want to go backwards.
Nope.
I want to look back a year from now and go, ooh, I was that guy a year ago?
Yeah, exactly. And that's moving towards constant improvement, right? And whether it's just yourself, right, or your business, or your ability to retire earlier or retire successful.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, but I think everybody who has had some modicum of success in their life, they look back and they go, yeah, I've got this great career. How did I do it? I was challenging myself. You're not really challenging the other people in your office.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Right. No, that you make a very good point. Yeah, I don't care what anyone else does.
I really don't.
We don't care.
Do you think Steve Jobs was sitting around going, oh, what's everybody else doing? You know what I love is Ford is trolling Elon right now.
Yeah.
And Elon keeps saying, hey, where are the rest of y'all? Let's go.
Right.
Come on in.
Yep.
Let's go. And they're kind of talking all this trash without mentioning who it is. But of course, we all know who they're talking about. And he's like, no, it's no big deal, guys. While I'm beating you in electric cars, I'm putting rockets in space.
Right.
And I'm fixing brains. But come on, man. Come on. You want to come play? Come play with me.
Yes.
He's not competing against any of y'all. Trust me. He's running circles around you part-time. He's running circles around you part-time.
That's the scary thing, right?
I know you had mentioned this about the Tesla motors. I don't believe people understand how revolutionary those things are.
I think it's a 5 to 7 year leap they just made.
It may be bigger than that. So how much time do we have, A-Rock? We might talk.
We're good.
Maybe the next segment?
4 minutes.
We got 4 minutes. Okay, I'll make it as quick as I can. Bugatti came out with their most recent hypercar, I don't know, a couple months ago. I have a friend of a friend who is ordering one.
Nice.
3.75 million, somewhere around there. In fact, he's got a video on YouTube where he's configuring it. Anyways, so cool car. The problem is that when you reach a certain speed, what happens is and this is a very basic physics lesson. What happens is that those wheels are turning so fast that they begin to create their own field, and the force starts to tear them apart.
They come apart.
They come apart. In fact, we couldn't reach the torque for electric cars, like the tire technology didn't exist yet, like 3 years ago. So what happens when you get beyond about 1,000 horsepower, the wheels will rip the inside of the tires out. But they've solved that issue. But now the problem is they're so fast that the tires begin to pull themselves apart. They create 4 fields on the vehicle. North, I want to say, of 250, 275 miles an hour, somewhere around there. The challenge is with Tesla is that the motor, there's not a motor in the middle of the car and then there's these like drive shafts. The motors are in the wheels. So now you have an even greater field that gets created because there's so much more mass that's rotating. So the problem, I didn't know Tesla was dealing with this problem. The copper coils were unspinning, like they were becoming,
unwinding,
they were unwinding.
Yep.
So when those coils spin, they create an electromagnetic field. That's how the vehicle is actually powered, is through an EM field.
Basic electric motor. Yeah.
Right. It's a basic electric motor, brushless electric.
160 years old.
Right.
So, yep.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, they haven't, when they originally started making, I don't think a lot of people know this. We had electric cars during the Model T.
Of course. Yeah.
They were like steam engines, electric cars, and internal combustion engines were literally all invented at the same time. So in any case, they were having to defeat a physics issue. And they did that, and like you said, it was like a throwaway thing for Elon. He's like, oh yeah, we just solved like a 200-year-old car problem.
Yeah, and then it's so light you can pick it up with your hands, and it's like
yeah, it's no big deal. And Bugatti couldn't figure this out,
right?
Which, by the way, is Volkswagen. Yes. That's who Bugatti is, actually a Volkswagen. So you couldn't figure it out on nearly a $4 million hypercar, and they're putting it in the. They're probably going to put it in all of them.
Eventually.
It's
definitely in the Model X.
It's in the Model X Plaid, which one of the guys in my group just got his. He got one of the first 25, and it's going in the Roadster. $140,000 car. Like, they are so far ahead of the game. I don't know how anybody else is going to catch them. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous.
We had well, we're going to be back here and we got a minute. So, hey, let's just talk about the event. So, if you guys are watching us if you're hearing us tonight, hopefully this is Wednesday night you're listening. Tomorrow, Thursday, is our grand opening. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, make sure you go to the REICTX.com, Real Estate Investment Center, Texas, REICTX.com, and go to the grand opening and go ahead and sign up. We already got about 200 people, maybe 300, I don't know, coming. It's going to be a great event. Come tour the building, come have some food, have some beers with us. There's going to be some great speakers, so make sure you're coming. And if you're a real estate agent, or if you know anyone who's a real estate agent, we're doing a free continuing education class at noon. So make sure you go check that out. Thanks. We'll be back.
Welcome back. Jason Bible, Robert Orfino, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. So Elon says, we just shaved 400 pounds off a car.
Yeah.
Now, if you're not a car person, you don't know what that means. So let me explain what that means. The difference between the Porsche GT3 and the GT3 RS is less than 200 pounds. The difference in price is like $80,000.
Right.
The wheels alone, if I'm not mistaken, A-Rock may have to look this up. There's an optional wheel package, I want to say for $20,000, that gives you carbon fiber wheels. And I think it only reduces the rotating mass by less than 50 pounds. So because Elon is always on the constant improvement train, he's like, oh yeah, so we decided to lighten the car by 400 pounds, probably reduce some of the centrifugal mass, and we just kind of did it.
Yep.
This was funny. So I'm reading that news, and I was listening to your show, and at the same time, I saw a press release from GM, and GM said, because of the chip shortage, we're removing the automatic start-stop feature, meaning where if you go to a stoplight,
have that much Jeep.
Yeah, you got it in your Jeep. You go to a stoplight, it's a total pain in the ass. Yep. You go to the stoplight, the engine turns off, and then it turns back on when you release the brake.
Yeah.
And they said, hey, we're getting rid of that because we can't get enough microchips. And then here's Elon on the other side of the spectrum just said, we just lightened the car by 400 pounds, and by the way, it's the fastest production car on the planet. And we already have the second one that it will be even faster than that. And it's only $140,000. I was blown away. These guys just don't stop innovating. And one of my favorite things that Elon has always said is, he's like, look, we're just trying to be 10% better. We just need to be 10% better than everybody else. And again, that's another one of those, I like your term, Rob, throwaway lines where it's like, oh, you just want to be 10% better. I'm like, yeah, but he's been 10% better since 2008. So now look where he is.
In every step. Yep.
In every step, in every single one of his businesses. So I'm reading that book, Winning. I'm hanging out with these Boy Scouts and I'm doing all that, and I'm like, and you and I have had this conversation multiple times. We have no competitors. Like, there are no real competitors.
Well, we do. They're REITs. They're
that's
big
true.
Financial institutions up in the Woodlands and downtown, and none of those guys are ever on YouTube or at a free chicken wing beer event, right?
Yeah.
They're not there. So,
and what's interesting,
and when I hint about that, what I'm saying is, at some point, we're just not going to be accessible as we are now.
That's right. Well, probably a good way to put it is,
or the people I hire to be our successors.
Well, right,
are
right,
not going to be on the show.
Yeah,
well, we're two knuckleheads. We'll still do this, right?
Yeah, we'll still do some stupid show.
Yeah, we'll do something stupid. But when we bring in a real CFO and a CEO and a COO, they're never going to get in front of the camera. They're going to be here and they're going to be figuring out how to maximize profits on $150 million in real estate and how to continue to grow.
Yeah, probably a good way to put it is, I was trying to explain to somebody like who kind of our competitors are, and they're like, well, how do you explain like REITs and hedge funds in New York and Southern California and all that? And I said, the best way to describe it is no one really owns it. It's like I said, are you familiar with Star Trek? And they go, yeah. I said, we're competing against the Borg.
Yeah.
They're like this giant autonomous group that's coming to suck up properties. And that's our competitors.
I got to tell you, that's a great example, because there's the difference between them and us, and why we want to have investors work with us, is because those guys have no personal responsibility for failure.
None.
Right? We're the idiots here who will say, hey, man, we're going to make sure everything is right and take care of everything. And we're still growing, and we're still making sure that we take care of our investors, while big groups like that are just burning them left and right.
That's right.
Just every day are burning them.
Yeah.
Right? So when you start getting to that level, and we should be there in another year and a half or so, that will be the hard thing for us. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, we've still got to show up every month and sit down and have a beer and have some brisket with the folks who are entrusting their money with us.
That's right.
Right? We have to do that.
Yeah.
That will be our responsibilities.
Right.
Right? We'll just hire really, really smart, hard workers to do all the day-to-day stuff, but we're going to make sure that all our investors are still taken care of. That will be our main role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still finding.
I'll drive up from Corpus for that.
There you go. Yeah, we'll still be finding deals for all of our funds and all that other stuff. And
our mastermind.
But I think everybody's going to like it more because our reporting is going to be better.
We've hired the person. She's phenomenal. Yeah. She's wonderful. So
everyone's like, "Where are the reports?" I'm like, "Don't worry about it. Everything's fine."
We know, but it's not anymore. We've got the great woman who's helping us out. Meet her tomorrow at the event. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then we're really moving on some of these other private investor events here. Private investor events.
Private investor events. Yeah, it's going to be, man. I am real excited. This is it's a lot of work, and a lot of this fell on your shoulders in particular because of all the construction. But it's getting in. It's quickly going into the fun phase where this is just fun, right?
Yep.
Making a lot of money, which is always good.
Yep.
But it's really fun. The other book I'm reading is The Psychology of Money right now, and I'm about 2/3 of the way through it. And this guy's very interesting because he basically says, hey, we don't need to look at Warren Buffett and all this other stuff. We need to look at patterns, essentially behavioral patterns in mass. And he says one of the big fallacies, and it's something that you've said, is when is enough enough?
Right.
And you've got to be really careful because then it all, you just keep going and go. And then you start talking about insider trading and all the stuff that's gone on in the past. But you start making decisions. And this is something that Jordan Peterson says, it's more important how you make your money than how much you make.
1,000% true.
Because you and I are seeing some stuff in the marketplace where, like, you realize that's unethical, right? And in some cases, it's illegal.
Yep.
Now, they haven't caught you yet, but they will.
Right.
So there's a lot of that kind of stuff that's going on. And you had mentioned in one of the shows last week that, the idea that you're going to mom and pop wholesale a deal and pick up a couple of rentals, and it's like, dude, it's going to be a broker's world pretty soon here.
I don't want to spill the beans on everything that we do here because... Real quick side story.
Okay.
We had some people around last night helping us put the bags together, and then we had a little event.
A bunch of mastermind folks.
And then
right?
one mastermind member, I didn't respond to it.
Yeah.
But of all the people that we've worked with now, he was the one guy who said, hey, I figured out what you guys do.
Ooh.
I was like,
oh, what do we do?
Interesting. And I just went right on to the next
Oh,
conversation.
okay.
Like, I didn't acknowledge it.
Okay.
He figured it out.
Uh-oh.
Like he got it. I was like, very, very good. So I'll give you an example of how you do business versus, right?
Yeah.
How much money you make. We've thought about opening up our own title company.
That's right.
And we exclusively use patent.
That's right.
You know who the first person we talked to was?
Ashley.
Hey, we want to do this. We can either do it apart. We can do it together. What are your thoughts? They're like, when you're ready, let's have a conversation. Love to work with you. Versus having a secret title company or a secret hard money company and then not telling these other guys you're still doing business with and showing up at all their events and taking pictures with.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, hey, man, we like what you do. We want to figure out a way to do it. We think this would be really important to have in this building. Do you want to work with us or not? Of course we'll work with you guys.
Yeah, it's great.
That's when we talk about how you do business versus how much money you make from business. That's what I think. That's the example that comes to mind.
100%. I'll give you an even more kind of nuanced. I shouldn't say nuanced, but it's one thing.
Like we're gonna pick on Patrick and his purple feather jacket, but
yeah,
still,
that's fine.
That's just kind of
Yeah, Patrick wears something crazy if you come in Thursday. Yeah. He always wears something wild. I'm like, what are you? And I always forget he's Brazilian, so it's like, oh, this makes sense. Because he's got that like
international flair. Yes.
Yeah, he's Brazilian, but he's got this like Pasadena accent, which I always get a kick out of. Anyway, so one thing that drives me crazy is vendors that show up at events that they don't pay for. Like you own a company and you're going to quote network the room, but you don't even pay to be a sponsor. It drives me crazy. Because I'm like, the event's $500, bro.
But what I recognize when I see that is someone who's not truly in business.
Oh, that's a good point.
They're hackers just trying to, they're fear and desperate. Hey, this is Robert and Jason with the world-renowned Mr. Texas Real Estate. This is the Texas Real Estate Radio Network. Got so much going on. We really appreciate you guys listening to us at night, in your ears on a podcast, or watching us on YouTube or Facebook. We'll be back.
Welcome back, Jason Bible, Robert Orfino, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. The other thing he mentions is in this book, Winning. He's like, if you're somebody that's going on Facebook and you're at, quote, another life-changing event or you're crushing it or all that, he's like, you're not a really a winner.
Some getaway time to figure out my next steps, Jason.
Dude, I'm telling you, this guy, I'm reading this book and I'm like, is he in Rob and I's head? Like, I'm sitting there reading this. I'm like,
other office over here?
Is he in the other? Like, I'm reading this book. This is the guy that trained Jordan for 15 years. And Kobe for like 10, right? And I'm sitting there reading this, and I'm like, I thought Rob and I were the only crazy ones.
Yeah.
Like, we get told we're a-holes all the time, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting there reading this. I'm like, wait a minute. We're right. Now, of course, I look around at our success, and I'm like, I know we're right. But then I'm reading this, and I'm like, oh, and our mindset's right, too. Yeah. Like, we think all these guys are clowns, right? Oh, man, I'm at another life-changing event. Somebody said they're going to take it up to the next level. And I'm like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
No winner talks like that. And that's his whole point. Like, the first section of the book is all about how
WWE talk. That's
exactly what it is.
It's wrestling talk.
It's kayfabe, right?
Yeah.
Here's the kayfabe. If you guys don't know what that is, Google it up. Here's the kayfabe, right? Well, how much of people's lives is fake?
Yeah.
We'll see it tonight. It's like, hey, man, what's going on? Oh, yeah, I'm doing this, and I'm crushing it. I'm like, whatever. You've been doing this longer than I have, right? I'm like.
So I went to that event last month, and you were on stage. I did the podcast with Curtis, and I think it went really well. And sit down at a table, and I got my super secret wristbands, so I could actually have a whiskey instead of
We'll just open our own tab.
Anyway, but guy sits down next to me, and he's like, what are you doing? I was like, man, I'm just here for the free beer and chicken wings.
Oh, that's funny.
And then he started telling me about his success, and I was like, "That's great, that's awesome." And he was an earnest guy. He drove all the way out from Austin to come to figure out this event. And I told him,
"So glad you're telling me how successful you are." It's great.
And then everyone started coming around me at the table, like Brian and Chelsea, and all. Hey, what's going on? And he's like, "Well, who are you?" I'm like, "I'm really just here to support my partner." And like, "Who's your partner?" I'm like, "He's going up on stage right now." And the video ran. He's like, "That's you?" I'm like, "It doesn't need to be me."
Yeah.
We're having a good conversation, dude.
Yeah, just don't.
It's all good.
But I bet it changed after that, didn't it?
It sure did change.
Yeah.
Yeah, then it was, well, how much is your capital and all this other stuff? I'm like, oh, good. We're having a real conversation.
We're having an adult conversation.
Yeah, that's good.
I get it, because these guys, most people in this industry, I mean, they've got to kind of fluff themselves up.
Yeah.
And that's fine. There's an ego play there. But the flip side of that too is like, well, what are the real substantive conversations we should be having with people?
Here's what I know. That guy had 12 houses. And in my mind, he was ahead of 99% of our industry.
Yeah, he was
In
top
the
1%.
Top 1%. Good on him,
Yeah.
man. That is awesome.
Top 1% even in that room.
Yeah, in that room,
in that room,
Yep.
right? I mean, probably 10 guys in there out of 1,000 people are at that level, right? So I want to talk a little about, kind of switch gears here a little bit. Thursday night, so do we have one more segment left, or is this the last? Sorry, I've been out for a week, so I can't count.
This is the last segment, right?
This is the last segment?
Yeah.
Okay. So I've been trying to piece, and I sent this email out last night. I've been trying to piece something together for about a year now, and I saw some funny things in the data is probably the best way to put it. I have not told anybody this until I called you the other day. And I'm like, something's not right, but there's not enough observations. That's a statistical term. There's not enough events in the data for me to say, okay, something's going on here. So I called you. I had this whole week where I was thinking about this, and I was chatting with a couple of guys. We were talking about, one of the guys I was hanging out with is his undergrads in economics and actually econometrics. He builds models for a living.
Yeah.
And so we started having this conversation, and then it all hit me. He was sharing with me a book he had read that hasn't been published since the 70s about the Weimar Republic, post-war Germany. And I said, look, I thought they went this inflationary cycle was because they were printing money to pay war reparations. And he said, no, that's not it at all. And he said that was part of it, but let me explain the rest of it. And when he explained it to me, that's when I called you and said, that is not what they taught us in school.
Nope.
That's not what modern history has told you about the Weimar Republic.
Germany went bankrupt because they had to pay for the French and English reparations.
Right. But that is not actually true. It's part of it, but it's not actually true. But what was interesting
It wouldn't
is...
make sense anyway.
It doesn't make sense, right. But then the other part that was fascinating is he said, look, this book got into the mindset of the Germans after the war and what happened to their currency. And I said, oh my God, it is very similar to what's happening now. And so it started making sense with the data I've been looking at for the last year. You and I are going to do a mid-market update at the Texas Real Estate Investment Center grand opening Thursday night. And I've titled it a dark storm on the horizon, which I got to experience that this week, which was crazy. I'll tell that whole story at some point. We almost had to be rescued. It was wild. So there is a very dark storm coming on the horizon. And if you're on the wrong side of this thing, you're going to get obliterated because it is absolutely what happened in Germany. In fact, the same things people are saying now, wow, I'm rich because I have all this Bitcoin and I have all this investments in stocks and all this. This has already happened once before.
Virtual wheelbarrow.
It is, yeah. And at this point, the corollaries are it's not exactly the same, but there's some correlation here.
Sure.
So we're going to talk about that for about an hour.
How to protect yourself.
Yeah, what to do next. And the other thing I said in our email, I said, we're not wrong. The only thing we have not gotten right is how fast it happens. And my predictions in the next 5 years, it's probably going to be in the next 2.
Yeah, and we're not taking a victory dance on this one, but U.S. deaths for COVID just passed 600,000.
Yeah, crazy.
Which was the number we said it was going to be at.
That's right. Yep. So we were right in February. We're right now. I mean, it's not great, but that's what we predicted. So if you guys want to see that, I am not doing a recording. We're not going out on Facebook. You need to be here to have that discussion. At some point, I'll probably do a public thing in the next couple of months. But if you want to see that, tickets are $10. You can go to mrtxre.com, click on events. It should be on our event page.
Yeah.
But you're going to have to be here and see that show. It's going to blow you away. It's like I said, it's something that my spidey sense has been up for the last year, and I'm like, something's not right. And then we had these conversations about this book that hadn't been published in 40 years, and then it all started making sense.
I mean, that's the problem, right? So the layman or our peer-to-peer sharing is only looking at the last crash.
Right.
And we're like, this has nothing. Looks nothing like that. It's
totally different
This is
animal.
not the problem. And so you got to go all the way back to like 1918, 1922 Germany to find a comparison.
And it's not the wheelbarrows full of money to go buy bread, because that's the libertarian kind of very low level, like, we shouldn't be doing this because it's printing money. And I'm like, it's the world's much more sophisticated now, and the way it's being done and how it's being implemented is way more complicated.
Right. And I mean, no secret here. Would you rather have virtual assets or hard assets?
Yeah, you want financial assets, you want real assets. It's really that simple. So if you guys will be here for that,
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock tomorrow. It's going to be a lot of fun.
We'll probably be out of food, but maybe not out of beer.
Maybe not out of beer. We'll have plenty of beer. And then we're going to launch a new podcast that night, which is going to be a lot of fun.
It'll be fun, yep.
So,
all right, guys.
Yeah,
thanks for joining us. This is Robert and Jason with the world-renowned Mr. Texas Real Estate. Check out our website for everything we just talked about, mrtxre.com. MR is in Mr., TX is in Texas, RE as in realestate.com. We're here to the Texas Real Estate Radio Network, and we're broadcasting from the Texas Real Estate Investment Center. Thanks, guys. We'll be back with a short break, and then we're done for tonight. Thanks.